Ever slather on sunscreen? Kind of wondering what you're actually putting on your skin.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive on sun protection, the whole deal, how UV rays really affect us, the potential downsides of the everyday sunscreens we grab, and get this, what the latest research says about natural alternatives.
It's fascinating stuff. Getting ready to, maybe rethink what you thought you knew about sunscreen. The science, it's full of surprises.
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. We're talking UV radiation, obviously, which we all know we got to protect ourselves from, but I got to ask, beyond wear sunscreen or fry, what's the deal with these UV rays?
Well, you can almost think of UV radiation like levels in a video game, right?
Yeah.
You've got your UVA, your UVB, and your UVC. Each one has its own damage potential. UVC, that's the most intense, like the final boss. But luckily, our planet, it's got a pretty solid defense mechanism built in, the ozone layer.
So the ozone layer, that's like our planet's own personal bodyguard. It's protecting us from those super intense rays.
Exactly. It filters out most of that UVC radiation, but it's not, 100% foolproof.
Yeah.
Especially with how human activities are impacting things. That's why protecting ourselves from, that remaining UV, that's so important. Now, UVB, on the other hand, that's the culprit behind those painful sunburns we've all experienced at some point. It's like that quick knockout punch of UV radiation.
Oh, I know that feeling. Been there. Definitely don't want to go back.
Yep.
But then there's UVA, and you're saying that's a bit sneakier.
Yeah, exactly. It's like UVA is like that stealthy opponent in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's less intense than UVB, for sure, but it goes deeper, penetrates deeper into your skin. And that leads to, the wrinkles, the sunspots, those kind of deeper signs of sun damage over time.
So UVB is like that quick knockout punch. UVA is playing the long game, just slowly chipping away at our skin's health.
Exactly. You got it. And here's the real kicker: UVA rays, they're around even on cloudy days. So even when it's overcast, your skin is still exposed.
Sneaky indeed. But hold on, it can't be all bad news, right? I mean, what about vitamin D? We do need some sun exposure for that, don't we?
You're absolutely right. It's not all doom and gloom. UVB radiation, believe it or not, actually helps our bodies produce vitamin D, which we all know that's essential for bone health, immunity, even mood regulation.
Okay, so a little bit of sunshine, it's actually good for us. Like most things, it's about finding that sweet spot, right?
Exactly. And that's where sunscreen comes in to help us find that balance. And this is where things get really interesting. That very thing we rely on for sun protection, it might actually come with its own set of issues.
So we're slathering on all this sunscreen thinking we're protected, but now you're saying there might be some downsides, some hidden downsides. Okay, yeah, you've got my attention.
Yeah, it's not about, scaring anyone off sunscreen completely or anything like that. It's more about, I think, just kind of understanding the bigger picture here, the full picture, right? Because those chemical shields, the ones we're putting on our skin, they don't always play so nicely with the sun, or with our bodies for that matter.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's actually going on here?
So sunscreens, they work in basically two main ways. They either absorb the UV rays, kind of like a sponge, or they reflect them, like a mirror.
Makes sense.
Seems pretty straightforward, right? But here's the thing, the catch. A lot of those common sunscreen ingredients, the chemicals that are doing the absorbing and the reflecting, they can actually break down when they're exposed to sunlight.
Wait, so they're supposed to protect us from the sun, but the sun makes them less effective.
It's a little ironic, right?
Yeah.
And it gets kind of worse, actually, because when those ingredients degrade, they can actually form, potentially harmful compounds. And then, if that weren't enough, some of these compounds, they've actually been found making their way into our waterways.
So now we're talking about harming marine life, coral reefs, fish, that whole ecosystem.
Exactly. Some of these chemicals, they're actually toxic to marine life, even in really, really small amounts.
Wow.
Places like Hawaii, parts of Mexico, the Caribbean, they've actually banned certain sunscreen ingredients, completely, just to protect their reefs.
I had no idea it was that serious. So our attempt to protect our skin could actually be harming the planet.
Yeah, that's the dilemma, right? And there's another layer to all of this too. Because emerging research is suggesting that some sunscreen ingredients, get this, they can be absorbed through the skin and actually enter our bloodstream.
Hold on, absorbed into our bloodstream. Are we talking about those same ingredients that could be harming marine life?
Yeah, we are. And, it's important to note here, the research, it's still ongoing. We're learning more all the time. But it definitely raises some questions, some important ones. about those long-term health effects.
Okay, so we're trying to prevent skin cancer, which is obviously that's so important. But now we're learning that the solution might actually come with its own risks. For us and for the environment, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's exactly why this research is so crucial, you know? It's not about saying sunscreen is evil or anything like that. It's about, you know, understanding those complexities, the trade-offs, so we can all make more informed choices. And this is where I think things start to get really, really interesting. Because there's this whole world of natural alternatives out there that are showing real promise.
Natural alternatives to sunscreen. Okay, now you're speaking my language. It's like we're tapping into like ancient wisdom or something.
In a way, we kind of are. You know, plants, they've been thriving under the sun for millions of years. They've had to come up with some pretty ingenious ways to protect themselves from UV damage.
Wait, so plants have like built-in sunscreen. I need to hear more about this.
Right. It's incredible. They've developed these natural compounds, we call them phytochemicals, and they act like kind of their own internal sun protection system.
Wow.
And the really exciting part, we might be able to, you know, harness these plant powerhouses and use them for our own benefit.
Okay, so you're saying we could actually use plants to protect our skin, like instead of those chemical sunscreens.
Exactly. And one of the like all-star players in the natural sun protection world, a group of compounds called polyphenols. They're found in things like, you know, green tea, grapes, apples, things like that. Think of them like, I don't know, little bodyguards, but for your skin cells.
Bodyguards. Okay, I like the way you think. But how do they actually work?
So these polyphenols, they act as antioxidants, and really powerful ones at that. They're helping to protect your skin cells from that deeper damage that UV radiation can cause.
So it's like giving your skin cells a nice, healthy dose of green tea armor every day. I love it.
Right.
So what other plant powerhouses are we talking about here? There's got to be more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So anthocyanins, for example, they're those pigments that give those vibrant colors to berries and other fruits.
Okay.
And they're not just pretty to look at, by the way. Anthocyanins, they've been linked to a whole bunch of health benefits, and that includes protection against UV damage.
So all those delicious, colorful fruits and veggies, those are like our secret weapon for sun protection.
Pretty much. And there's still more. We've got carotenoids too. And those you'll find in things like carrots, tomatoes, spinach.
Yeah.
All those brightly colored fruits and veggies, you know. They act like internal sun shields, you know. Absorbing the UV light, neutralizing those harmful free radicals.
Hold on, free radicals. Remind me what those are again.
Oh, right, yeah. Free radicals, they're basically these unstable molecules, and they can really do a number on our cells.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, UV radiation lets loose all these little wrecking balls.
Okay, got it.
Antioxidants, like those carotenoids we were just talking about, they help to kind of neutralize those free radicals, you know, minimize the damage they can do.
So it's like our internal cleanup crew going in and taking care of the damage after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I almost forgot, we got to mention another group of compounds, alkaloids. You find these in black pepper, and get this, they can actually boost the effectiveness of other photoprotective compounds.
Wow.
Like they give those other plant powerhouses a supercharge.
This is amazing. It's like plants hold the key to a whole new way of thinking about sun protection. One that's like actually effective, good for us, and good for the planet too.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting about all of this. You know, imagine a future where our sunscreens, they're made from these natural plant-based ingredients. Biodegradable, reef-safe, you know, even good for your skin from the inside out. That's the goal.
That's amazing. It's like a whole new world opening up. But for those of us listening right now, like, what does this actually mean? Should we be ditching all of our chemical sunscreens, running straight for the produce aisle?
Well, it's not quite as simple as just swapping one for the other. You know, this research, it really highlights the need for, I think, a more holistic approach to sun protection.
Okay, so like a little bit of everything, right?
Exactly. Think of it as a multi-pronged strategy.
Okay, so what does that look like, that strategy?
Well, first and foremost, be mindful of your sun exposure.
Yeah.
Right? Getting that daily dose of vitamin D, that's great. But no need to overdo it. Avoid like excessive sunbathing, especially during those peak hours when the sun's really intense.
Makes sense. Enjoy the sun, but don't bake in it all day.
Right. And you know what else? Protective clothing is your absolute best friend here. A nice wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, even, you know, some lightweight long sleeves if you're going to be out for a while. Those offer like really excellent protection no matter what kind of sunscreen you decide to use.
Sun protection and fashion all in one. I'm on board with that. Okay, so then what about when we do need that extra layer of protection? What should we be looking for?
That's when you become a label detective.
Yeah.
Right. Look for those natural plant-based sunscreens, the ones that say they're biodegradable and reef safe. And remember, this whole area of research, it's constantly evolving, so the best thing we can all do is stay curious.
Keep asking those questions. Love that.
Exactly.
Wow, this deep dive has been, I mean, seriously eye-opening. It's not just about like slapping on any old sunscreen. It's about understanding that connection between our own health and the health of our environment, right? What
Yeah.
we put on our bodies and what ends up in our ecosystems. It's all connected.
It really is. It's bigger than just us. We have to start thinking about sun protection as like part of a larger picture of wellness.
Yeah.
For ourselves and for the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. But before we go, just a final thought for our listeners. Next time you're reaching for that sunscreen, take a moment. Think about the choices you're making. Could they be doing more? Not just for you, but for the planet we all share. Thanks for listening, everyone.